Hey everyone, welcome to today's explainer, the art of patience and hidden blessings. Let's get right into it.
So, think about this for a second. How many times have you looked at a situation, called it a total disaster, only to realize later it was actually a hidden blessing? It's human nature, right? We see something go wrong and boom, we immediately panic. But, as we're going to see in this explainer, what feels like a devastating loss today, well, it might just be prepping you for something way better tomorrow. The tricky bout? Most of us just don't have the patience to wait and find out. To really wrap our heads around this, let's look at an old story set right at the foot of the lush green Harvey Hills in India. Picture this, a simple, humble farmer living in a small mud and dry grass house with his wife and his incredibly strong son. Now, they definitely weren't rich. They had a little patch of land, an old ox, a dog, a couple of cows. But they had this one prized possession, a stunning, tall, amazingly strong horse. And to this family, he wasn't just livestock. No way. He was genuinely considered part of the family.
Well, word of this gorgeous horse gets around, and a wealthy traveling merchant shows up, offering a massive sack of gold coins for him. I mean, we're talking enough money to feed the family for years. Naturally, the other villagers gather around whispering, saying the farmer's an absolute fool to turn down that kind of cash. But the farmer? He doesn't budge an inch. He flat out refuses the wealth, telling them, "This horse is not just an animal to us. He is part of our family, and this horse is not for sale." Of course, the villagers are gossiping, saying he threw away his one big shot. And then, literally just days later, we hit our first major twist, an empty stable. The farmer's son walks out one morning and the rope is untied. The prized horse has inexplicably vanished. They scour the fields, the riverbanks, the edges of the forest, even the neighboring villages. Nothing. Not a single trace was left behind.
So you can imagine the reactions, right? The villagers, they totally panic and start mocking him over this terrible loss. Clicking their tongues, gossiping, "We told you so, now he has no horse and no money." But the farmer? Totally different story. He's a picture of unshakable calm and acceptance. Even while consoling his heartbroken son, he doesn't panic. He doesn't curse the sky.
And this is where we see the farmer's core philosophy really shine. He just puts a hand on his son's shoulder and says, "Who knows what is good and what is bad? Only time will tell." That was his steady anchor. He truly believed that everything happens for a reason, and honestly, we just aren't wise enough to judge life in the exact moment it happens. We just don't have the full picture.
Now, hold on to that thought, because about a week later, the unbelievable actually happens. Early one misty morning, the son hears the sound of hooves. That missing horse didn't just come back. He trotted out of the forest, bringing 5 magnificent, completely untamed wild horses right along with him. So, one lost horse miraculously turned into a herd of 6.
And once again, the villagers' pendulum swings wildly to the complete opposite extreme. Now they are over the moon, over-celebrating, calling the farmer the luckiest man alive, saying he'll be wealthier than that merchant. But the farmer? Still perfectly grounded. He shows that same quiet restraint. He tells his son, "Hey, don't celebrate too soon." He's warning him not to judge this moment either, because they really don't know what this newfound wealth is actually going to bring.
And well, he was absolutely right to be cautious. That brings us to our second twist, a sickening crack. Eager to train these wild horses, the farmer's strong young son hops onto one of the stallions the very next day. But the wild horse violently bucks and twists, throwing the young man hard into the dirt. There's a terrible crack. His leg is broken in 2 places. The village healer binds it up tightly in splints, but gives them the grim news that he might always walk with a limp.
I bet you can guess what happens next. The villagers swing right back to pity and blame. They start whispering that the wild horses brought trouble, blaming the farmer's quote-unquote greed for cursing his son. But the farmer? He just sits calmly by his boy's bed. He reminds him that the exact same rain that floods a valley is what nourishes the forest. He's urging patience, saying once again, do not judge this moment either.
Then, literally just 2 weeks later, the unthinkable happens. Our final twist, the royal decree. You hear drums and trumpets echoing through the village as the king's soldiers march in. A brutal war has just broken out on the northern border, and they are drafting every single able-bodied young man into the army right then and there. No exceptions, no excuses. Fathers are standing there in stunned silence, mothers are wailing as their boys are marched off to war.
This whole chain of events is just a brilliant example of how life does not unfold in straight lines. It twists, it turns, and it completely surprises us. Just think about the domino effect here. First, the horse gets lost. Second, he comes back with 5 wild ones. Third, trying to train them, the son breaks his leg. And fourth, because of that broken leg, the soldiers look at this young man bound up in splints, decide he's useless to them, and he is totally spared from the draft. That broken leg, which felt like the ultimate punishment, was the exact thing that saved his life.
And the profound weight of him being spared really hits home with this one tragic statistic. Out of the 23 young men drafted from that little village, only 9 came back. Just 9. The rest perished out there on the battlefield. The same families who had mocked the farmer were now grieving heavily, while the farmer's son was sitting safely under the old neem tree, his leg mending, perfectly alive and well.
Okay, so how do we take this ancient story and actually use it today? Let's break down the farmer's wisdom into 3 highly practical steps for finding some inner peace when life throws you a curveball. Step 1. Stop judging every single moment the second it arrives. You got to give life time to reveal the full picture. Step 2. Trust the process. Just because you can't see the road ahead doesn't mean you're going nowhere. And step 3. Stay steady in the good times and the bad. When things are going great, stay humble. When things fall apart, stay hopeful. It is all about balance.
Let's apply this directly to your life. Think about losing a job, failing an important exam, going through a really tough breakup, or taking a sudden financial hit. In the exact moment those things happen, it feels like the sky is literally falling, right? It feels like a total disaster, just like losing that prized horse. But honestly, how often do those exact devastating setbacks push us toward a much better career, or a way stronger relationship, or just a deeper understanding of who we really are? Every event connects to the next. Life is a whole book, not just one chapter.
So, the ultimate takeaway of this explainer really boils down to this. Everything happens for a reason. Be patient, be thankful, and keep your faith strong. Remember, you just can't judge a whole book by reading a single page. Try not to celebrate too quickly, and try not to grieve too deeply. Life has a pretty funny way of turning things around. Sometimes you just have to wait until the evening to really see how splendid the day has been.
To wrap things up today, I want to leave you with a question to mull over. Think about a time in your own life when something terrible actually turned out to be a massive blessing in disguise. I really challenge you to look at your past setbacks through the lens of that farmer's unshakable patience. You might just realize that the very thing you thought was breaking you was actually building you. Thanks so much for diving into this explainer with me. Keep learning, stay patient, and stay focused.